Many people do not think about how families and children are while having a loved one in the military. But today we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how it affects the parent who's in the military and also how it affects the children.
In our first interview, we are interviewing Melissa Tichy, whose father served in the United States Marine Corps for 27 years. Her father, Charles Cone, retired as a colonel. Which of your parents were in the military, what branch, and for how long?
Actually, both my parents were in the Marine Corps. My mom enlisted in 1970, and so did my dad. My mom stayed in 2 years until she had me, and then my dad stayed in 27 years.
How many different schools did you go to during this time?
I went to 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. 6 schools total.
As a child, what were the pros and cons of moving around a lot?
Well, I actually like to move around. The pros I always felt were that I got to see a lot of places and meet lots of different people because we lived in Hawaii, so I got to meet Hawaiians and Samoans and all different kinds of people. But the cons, the bad thing about moving was that you had to start over at a new school at the bottom of the totem pole every single time, every 3 years.
Did your father miss anything while he was in the military?
My senior year in high school, he was stationed in D.C., Washington, D.C., when I was, like I said, a senior. And he missed my senior prom, my, award ceremonies, all that kind of stuff my entire senior year.
I'm going to ask you another question about that. Do you resent him or are you mad at him for missing those things?
No, that was just part of life. That was what I grew up in from the time I was born. So I only knew that. My dad was gone one other time a year in Okinawa when I was younger. And, he missed that whole school year. It was just part of life. As long as my mom was there, I was okay with it.
How did your relationship with your father change when he got out of the military?
Well, I was out of college when he finally got out. We always got along, and I always had the utmost respect for him, so I didn't dare question him or argue with him ever. So it didn't really change. It pretty much stayed the same, except for now he was around to be able to see things. But I was on my own by the time he actually got out of the military. So it really didn't affect our relationship any.
Okay.
In the United States, over 2 million children have had a parent who served in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Most military families move every 2 to 3 years.
Children in military families typically change schools 6 to 9 times.
There are currently 1.2 million military children of active duty members worldwide.
Nearly 80% of military children attend public schools throughout the United States.
Only 5% of military spouses are men.
Nearly 20% of military members in Iraq and Afghanistan experience acute stress, depression, or anxiety.
More than 2 million children have had a parent deployed at least once.
More than 900,000 children have experienced the deployment of one or both parents multiple times.
Now we're going to talk to Major Mark Hobbs, who served as a chaplain in the Air Force and was a father while in the military. How long were you in the military and what did you do?
I was in the Air Force for 20 years. I served as a chaplain. Then after that, I retired and served as a Air Force Junior ROTC instructor at a local high school.
Okay, and how many children did you have while you were in the Air Force?
3 children, 1 boy, 2 girls.
Okay, and how old were they when you retired?
Well, let's see, one was 18, one was 6, and the other one was probably about 14.
Okay, and did you see a difference in the children who traveled more, or the child who didn't do as much because she was younger when you retired?
I did see a difference at first in that the ones who traveled, it seemed pretty easy for them to make friends. But the one who stayed at one school, went with one group of friends, I know that she had been able to make friends too. So at first it seems that way, but I think in time it all evens out.
Okay. How do you think it affected your children while, like, you being in the military?
Well, I think what affected them was meeting new people, seeing new places, new things, having a wide variety of experiences, and being adventurous.
Okay, and how do you think it affected you as a father?
I think it affected me, and being a father is I was always set ready to deploy, which means to go to another place to work at a moment's notice. And so that meant I had to be prepared to work not only where I was stationed at one particular location, but I could go anywhere, anytime. And so what I tried to teach my children was to always be ready for the unknown, which means do your stuff all along, and then when the unknown comes, you'll be better able to cope with those circumstances. So be prepared.
Okay.
Overall, children and families are affected when they have a loved one in the military, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Every child, parent, and family is different. These two interviews that you have just heard were just two perspectives on children of military parents. Thank you so much for watching our video.